Hello, America, and welcome back to AETB News, the channel where we cut through the noise to tell you what's really going on. I'm your host, and tonight we're diving headfirst into a storm that's brewing across the Atlantic. A storm whipped up by a series of pronouncements from the White House that have left allies reeling and economists scratching their heads. We're talking about a brand of diplomacy that feels less like statecraft and more like a high-stakes poker game, where the dealer is changing the rules with every hand. President Donald Trump is back in the headlines, and this time he's not just making waves. He's threatening to unleash a tidal wave of tariffs on some of our oldest allies. Switzerland, the very symbol of neutrality, a nation known for fine watches, decadent chocolate, and discreet banking, has been threatened with a staggering 39% tariff. Not to be outdone, the entire European Union is on notice, facing a potential 35% tariff unless they pony up an eye-watering $600 billion in investments into the United States. Now, if you're sitting at home, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with me? Well, that Swiss chocolate bar you love? Get ready for it to cost more. That European car you were saving for? Its price tag might be about to jump. This isn't some abstract political chess game happening in a distant capital. This is a strategy that has direct, tangible consequences for your wallet, for American businesses, and for the stability of the global economy. In this deep dive, we're going to unpack this strategy. We'll explore the logic, or perhaps the lack thereof, behind using tariffs as a cudgel against friendly nations. We'll examine the claim that this is all just sport, a way for the president to show who's the biggest player on the field. And we'll ask the critical question, is this a brilliant, unconventional tactic to put America first? Or is it a reckless gamble that risks isolating us from our friends and throwing the world into economic chaos? Furthermore, the tremors aren't just being felt abroad. Back at home, a battle is brewing for control of the nation's monetary policy, with a new Federal Reserve chair in the balance. And in a move that blends politics with finance, the White House is reportedly preparing to punish banks it accuses of discriminating against conservatives. This is a multi-front war on the established order, both economic and political. So grab a coffee, settle in, because we're about to unravel the threads of money, power, and politics in a way you won't see anywhere else. This is AETB News. Let's start with Switzerland, a 39% tariff. To put that in perspective, that is a shockingly high number, typically reserved for adversarial nations or specific punitive actions. Switzerland is neither. They're a long-standing, stable, and reliable partner. So what's the rationale? The video mentions a trade deficit, but the scale of this threat feels wildly disproportionate to the issue. From my perspective, this isn't about economics. This is about psychological warfare. The selection of Switzerland is strategic in its randomness. If a country is stable and non-controversial as Switzerland can be targeted, then the message to the world is clear. No one is safe. No alliance is sacred. No history of friendship matters. All that matters is leverage and a willingness to be unpredictable. One of the guests in the clip, Gillian Tett, relayed a chillingly insightful anecdote from an advisor at the beginning of the Trump administration. When asked why he was menacing Canada, of all places, the answer was, "It's just sport." Let that sink in. Sport. This reduces international relations, which affect the livelihoods of billions of people, to a game, a contest of wills, a way to demonstrate his power. When you view global trade through this lens, the threats against Switzerland and the EU start to make a twisted kind of sense. It's not about balancing trade, it's about establishing dominance. It's about being the bully in the schoolyard to ensure everyone knows who's in charge. The threat to the EU is even more audacious, a 35% tariff unless they magically produce $600 billion in U.S. investments. This isn't a negotiation, it's an ultimatum. It comes on the heels of what was supposed to be a trade framework agreement just a week prior. This yo-yo style of diplomacy creates an environment of total uncertainty. How can any nation, friend or foe, strike a deal with an administration that doesn't honor the spirit or even the letter of its own agreements? The deals are announced with great fanfare, designed for a tweet or a TV headline, but the substance is missing. As the clip points out, there are no pages and pages of the detail thrashed out. It's a press release masquerading as policy. When the EU and Japan later clarified that they hadn't quite agreed to what Trump announced, the White House didn't go back to the negotiating table. It doubled down, increasing the pressure with new threats. This is a feature, not a bug of the strategy. The goal is to keep everyone off balance. Unpredictability is weaponized. But here's the problem with this full-contact sport, as Ron Insana rightly calls it. Somebody gets hurt, and that somebody is often the American consumer and the American worker. While the aim might be to protect American industry, the immediate effect of tariffs is a tax on imports. The cost of that tax is almost always passed on to the consumer. The price of goods goes up. Your purchasing power goes down. Moreover, our allies don't just take this lying down. They retaliate. They slap tariffs on American goods, on our soybeans, our motorcycles, our whiskey. So the farmer in Iowa, the factory worker in Wisconsin, they become the casualties in this sport. Their access to international markets is cut off. Their businesses suffer, and jobs are lost. We are effectively hanging a tariff curtain around the United States, isolating ourselves from the global economy in which we were once the undisputed leader. This strategy is built on the belief that tariffs generate revenue and provide leverage. And while they do generate some revenue for the Treasury, that amount is often dwarfed by the broader economic damage caused by trade disruptions and retaliatory measures. It's like burning your house to collect the insurance money. You might get a payout, but you're left homeless in the rubble. The shockwaves don't just stop at our borders. A seismic shift is being contemplated right here at home, at the very heart of our economic stability, the Federal Reserve. The Fed chair is arguably one of the most powerful economic positions in the world. Their decisions on interest rates influence everything from your mortgage rate to the health of the stock market and the national unemployment rate. For this reason, the independence of the Federal Reserve has been a cornerstone of U.S. economic policy for decades. The idea is simple. The people controlling our money supply should be insulated from the day-to-day political whims of whoever occupies the White House. They should be making decisions based on economic data, not political pressure. Now, that sacred independence is being put to the test. The president is openly seeking a Fed chair who will be loyal to him, who will deliver the low interest rates he craves regardless of whether the economy needs them. Let's look at the candidates mentioned. On one hand, you have Kevin Warsh. He's a name Wall Street respects, he has experience at the Fed, and his appointment would likely be seen as a nod to market stability. The markets like predictability, and Warsh is a known quantity. On the other hand, you have Kevin Hassett. Hassett has served in the Trump administration and has a track record of defending the president's policies, even when, as the clip notes, they don't make sense. He is the loyalty candidate. His past involvement in the now infamous cubic model of the pandemic, which incorrectly predicted its swift disappearance, raises serious questions about his judgment and his willingness to bend analysis to fit a political narrative. The choice between Warsh and Hassett is a choice between the market and the man. Does the president prioritize the confidence of Wall Street, or does he prioritize the absolute loyalty of his appointee? My money is on loyalty. We've seen this pattern time and time again. For this administration, personal fealty often trumps expertise and experience. An appointment like Hassett would be deeply worrying. It would signal that the Fed is no longer an independent steward of the economy, but an arm of the White House's political agenda. If the Fed is pressured to keep rates low to juice the economy ahead of an election, for example, it could lead to runaway inflation, devalue the dollar, and create dangerous asset bubbles. It's a high-stakes gamble with the nation's financial future, and we are all at the table whether we like it or not. If targeting foreign allies and co-opting the central bank weren't enough, the administration is now reportedly taking aim at the domestic banking sector. The Wall Street Journal reports that an executive order is being prepared to punish banks it accuses of discriminating against conservatives.
On the surface, this is framed as a fight for fairness. But let's look at the context. This comes after major banks like J.P. Morgan and Bank of America were hesitant to take on Trump's accounts after he left office. The banks, for their part, are being careful, avoiding a direct confrontation and instead focusing on the broader issue of deregulation, which they largely support. This is a classic diversionary tactic. It's shadowboxing, as Gillian Tett puts it. The real issue for banks is the regulatory environment, but the president is making it about personal grievance and culture war politics. He is using the power of the executive branch to settle personal scores. Think about the implications. Should the government be able to force a private business, a bank, to do business with a client it deems too risky, whether that risk is financial or reputational? This move blurs the line between public regulation and political retribution. It sets a dangerous precedent where financial institutions could be pressured to make lending decisions not based on creditworthiness, but on political affiliation. This is not about preventing discrimination in the way we traditionally understand it, protecting classes of people based on race or religion. This is about protecting a political ideology, and more specifically, the political allies of the president. It's a move straight out of an authoritarian playbook, using the levers of the state to reward friends and punish enemies. The irony here is that it's being done under the banner of free market conservatism, which has historically championed the rights of private businesses to make their own decisions. It's a fundamental contradiction. But it fits the broader pattern, a willingness to tear down institutional norms, ignore established principles, and bend the apparatus of government to serve a personal and political agenda. So, what do we have when we put it all together? A foreign policy based on sport and bullying, a monetary policy that prioritizes personal loyalty over economic stability, a financial policy driven by political grievance. The common thread is unpredictability as a core tenet of governance. The goal is to shock, to disrupt, to keep everyone from world leaders to Wall Street dankers on their toes. The problem is that while this might project an image of strength to some, it is deeply corrosive to the foundations of our prosperity and our global standing. Economies thrive on stability. Alliances are built on trust. Markets depend on predictability. By systematically dismantling all three, this approach risks not making America great, but making America isolated, unstable, and untrustworthy. We are navigating a world where the old rule book has been thrown out the window. The tariff curtain is real. The threat to the Fed's independence is real. The use of executive power to settle scores is real. These aren't just headlines. They are fundamental shifts in the way our country operates on the world stage and at home. And it's happening right before our eyes. Staying informed has never been more critical. You won't get the full story from sound bites and tweets. You need in-depth, no-nonsense analysis that connects the dots. That's our commitment to you here at AETB News. We'll continue to track these developments, cut through the political theater, and tell you exactly how this impacts your life, your family, and your future. If you believe in this mission, if you want news that respects your intelligence and isn't afraid to ask the tough questions, then I'm asking you to support our work. Take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means the world to us. It helps us grow and continue to bring you the kind of independent journalism that is more vital now than ever before. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.